Latin America and the Caribbean recorded progress. Hunger and food insecurity are declining from 33.7% in 2020 to 25.2% in 2024, according to the latest report on food security and nutrition in the world. This is one of the largest reductions worldwide, but challenges remain. Today, 34 million people still suffer from hunger, and healthy diets persist unaffordable for 182 million people. The causes are complex and interconnected: extreme climate events, economic constraints, global disruptions like the pandemic and the war in Ukraine, and rising food prices. The most vulnerable are hit hardest, and progress toward the Sustainable Development Goals is at risk. That is why we must accelerate action. In March 2026, leaders will gather in Brasilia, Brazil, at the 39th FAO Regional Conference for Latin America and the Caribbean. Heads of state, ministers, parliamentarians, civil society, academia, and the private sector, all united from 33 countries, will address regional priorities and strengthen joint action towards transforming agri-food systems. We need to identify solutions together. FAO stands as a trusted and an impartial partner and continues supporting countries to transform agri-food systems, making them efficient, inclusive, resilient, and sustainable. For a world free of hunger, this is the path forward: a better production, better nutrition, a better environment, and a better life. Latin America and the Caribbean can lead by example, transforming agri-food systems through integrated, innovative, and science-driven responses, and build a region free of poverty, hunger, and inequality. This is our opportunity. This is our time to act. Latin America and the Caribbean recorded progress. Hunger and food insecurity are declining from 33.7% in 2020 to 25.2% in 2024, according to the latest report on food security and nutrition in the world. This is one of the largest reductions worldwide, but challenges remain. Today, 34 million people still suffer from hunger, and healthy diets persist unaffordable for 182 million people. The causes are complex and interconnected: extreme climate events, economic constraints, global disruptions like the pandemic and the war in Ukraine, and rising food prices. The most vulnerable are hit hardest, and progress toward the Sustainable Development Goals is at risk. That is why we must accelerate action. In March 2026, leaders will gather in Brasilia, Brazil, at the 39th FAO Regional Conference for Latin America and the Caribbean. Heads of state, ministers, parliamentarians, civil society, academia, and the private sector, all united from 33 countries, will address regional priorities and strengthen joint action towards transforming agri-food systems. We need to identify solutions together. FAO stands as a trusted and an impartial partner and continues supporting countries to transform agri-food systems, making them efficient, inclusive, resilient, and sustainable. For a world free of hunger, this is the path forward: a better production, better nutrition, a better environment, and a better life. Latin America and the Caribbean can lead by example, transforming agri-food systems through integrated, innovative, and science-driven responses, and build a region free of poverty, hunger, and inequality. This is our opportunity. This is our time to act. Latin America and the Caribbean recorded progress. Hunger and food insecurity are declining from 33.7% in 2020 to 25.2% in 2024, according to the latest report on food security and nutrition in the world. This is one of the largest reductions worldwide, but challenges remain. Today, 34 million people still suffer from hunger, and healthy diets persist unaffordable for 182 million people. The causes are complex and interconnected. Extreme climate events, economic constraints, global disruptions like the pandemic and the war in Ukraine, and rising food prices. The most vulnerable are hit hardest, and progress toward the Sustainable Development Goals is at risk. That is why we must accelerate action. In March 2026, leaders will gather in Brasilia, Brazil, at the 39th FAO Regional Conference for Latin America and the Caribbean. Heads of state, ministers, parliamentarians, civil society, academia, and the private sector, all united from 33 countries, will address regional priorities and strengthen joint action towards transforming agri-food systems. We need to identify solutions together. FAO stands as a trusted and an impartial partner and continues supporting countries to transform agri-food systems, making them efficient, inclusive, resilient, and sustainable. For a world free of hunger, this is the path forward. A better production, better nutrition, a better environment, and a better life. Latin America and the Caribbean can lead by example, transforming agri-food systems through integrative, innovative, and science-driven responses, and build a region free of poverty, hunger, and inequality. This is our opportunity. This is our time to act. Latin America and the Caribbean recorded progress. Hunger and food insecurity are declining from 33.7% in 2020 to 25.2% in 2024, according to the latest report on food security and nutrition in the world. This is one of the largest reductions worldwide, but challenges remain. Today, 34 million people still suffer from hunger, and healthy diets persist unaffordable for 182 million people. The causes are complex and interconnected. Extreme climate events, economic constraints, global disruptions like the pandemic and the war in Ukraine, and rising food prices. The most vulnerable are hit hardest, and progress toward the Sustainable Development Goals is at risk. That is why we must accelerate action. In March 2026, leaders will gather in Brasilia, Brazil, at the 39th FAO Regional Conference for Latin America and the Caribbean. Heads of state, ministers, parliamentarians, civil society, academia, and the private sector, all united from 33 countries, will address regional priorities and strengthen joint action towards transforming agri-food systems. We need to identify solutions together. FAO stands as a trusted and an impartial partner and continues supporting countries to transform agri-food systems, making them efficient, inclusive, resilient, and sustainable. For a world free of hunger, this is the path forward. A better production, better nutrition, a better environment, and a better life. Latin America and the Caribbean can lead by example, transforming agri-food systems through integrative, innovative, and science-driven responses, and build a region free of poverty, hunger, and inequality. This is our opportunity. This is our time to act. Latin America and the Caribbean recorded progress. Hunger and food insecurity are declining from 33.7% in 2020 to 25.2% in 2024, according to the latest report on food security and nutrition in the world. This is one of the largest reductions worldwide, but challenges remain. Today, 34 million people still suffer from hunger, and healthy diets persist unaffordable for 182 million people. The causes are complex and interconnected. extreme climate events, economic constraints, global disruptions like the pandemic and the war in Ukraine, and rising food prices. The most vulnerable are hit hardest, and progress toward the Sustainable Development Goals is at risk. That is why we must accelerate action. In March 2026, leaders will gather in Brasilia, Brazil, at the 39th FAO Regional Conference for Latin America and the Caribbean. Heads of state, ministers, parliamentarians, civil society, academia, and the private sector, all united from 33 countries, will address regional priorities and strengthen joint action towards transforming agri-food systems. We need to identify solutions together. FAO stands as a trusted and an impartial partner and continues supporting countries to transform agri-food systems, making them efficient, inclusive, resilient, and sustainable. For a world free of hunger, this is the path forward. A better production, better nutrition, a better environment, and a better life. Latin America and the Caribbean can lead by example, transforming agri-food systems through integrative, innovative, and science-driven responses, and build a region free of poverty, hunger, and inequality. This is our opportunity. This is our time to act.
Olá, muy buenos días. Antes de empezar, les recuerdo a los y las asistentes por Zoom que tenemos a disposición el servicio de interpretación español-inglés. Además, a través de YouTube de la FAO estamos también transmitiendo en español y en inglés. Before we start, please note that the consultation will be held in Spanish, and we have Spanish-English interpretation service available. Also, we are broadcasting through the FAO channel in YouTube and Spanish in English. Les pido, por favor, que le mantengan sus cámaras y micrófonos apagados en los momentos que otros participantes tomen la palabra.
Please keep your microphones off if you are not speaking. May you all be very welcome to the consultation with the scientific and academic sector within the framework of the 39th Regional Conference of the FAO for Latin America and the Caribbean. My name is Duclair Dwinett, and I'm in charge of alliances at the FAO for Latin America and the Caribbean, and I'll be acting as moderator this morning. For those of you that are not aware of the Regional Conference of the FAO, this is a forum that is held every 2 years and brings together representatives from the 33 countries of the region in order to debate priority issues of the FAO agenda for the next 2-year period, in this case for the 2026-2027 period. And within this framework, we have 3 consultations for non-governmental stakeholders today's, which is scientists and academics, and we would like to thank all those present here. The one for the private sector that will be held next week on the 21st of January, and finally the one on civil society that will take place during the last week of January. And we will be holding those 3 consultations. The idea basically is to listen to your comments, suggestions and opinions about the FAO agenda in the region. Also enabling the sector to have a much more qualified and accurate participation within the regional conference of the FAO itself, together with all the member states of our region. And to begin today's event, I would like to offer the floor to René Orellana. He is General Subdirector and Regional Representative of the FAO for Latin America and the Caribbean, who will share some welcoming words today. Thank you.
Muchas gracias. Buenos días a todos y todas. Es un honor.
Thank you. Good morning. It's a great honor to initiate this important dialogue with people from science and academia on dealing with development and technology. I believe that this provides us with an opportunity to share knowledge and experiences and approaches that enable us to continue to make headway in a coordinated manner in the transformation of agri-food systems. Your participation evidences the fundamental role played by science and academia and innovation and research as a response to the complex challenges that we face in the region. In Latin America and the Caribbean, we face structural challenges in terms of food security, and undoubtedly important achievements have been made in the reduction of hunger through social protection programs and with as a result of policies implemented by our governments in the region after recovering from the pandemic. However, this progress has not been easy. Inequalities continue to have a significant and disproportionate impact upon rural communities, indigenous communities, people living in poverty, and thus hindering their development. And on top of that comes the impact of climate change that reduces agricultural productivity, has an impact upon the availability of food, and exerts pressure on prices, undermining the ability of households to obtain adequate food. And within this scenario, the recent summit of the Latin American and Caribbean states has called upon strengthening international cooperation on trade, climate, food security, human rights, digital transformation, and other issues, highlighting the value of multilateralism and the transformation of agri-food systems linked to the implementation of technology and to the incorporation of academics. And in the Conference of the Parties held in Belém, we highlighted the importance of strengthening climatic goals and of promoting scientific innovation applied to climatic action, highlighting the importance of consolidating the close link between science and public policies, as well as the implementation of concrete policies and programs that can have an impact in our territories. And adequately responding to the present-day challenges requires strategic alliances, especially with the scientific and academic sectors that play a fundamental role because they highlight more effective public policies. Within this framework, the FAO acts as a bridge between science and research and action for development, and it contributes to the strengthening of the scientific basis via work with data analysis. It promotes various types of innovations, as from regulatory frameworks such as the Codex Alimentarius, and also leading up to social innovations such as field schools for farmers and technological solutions such as the geospatial platform for the hand-to-hand initiative. Our alliance with the scientific and academic sectors has been fundamental in order to provide reliable data and to provide solid evidence that backs up the design and implementation of programs, projects, and public policies in various countries. Likewise, via training platforms, we have contributed to the strengthening of capacity buildings among students and public officials. With the support of one of our South-South cooperation projects, together with CELAC and China, we achieved important results. For example, Barbados incorporated the use of drones and land scanners in order to improve risk management and agricultural production. Guyana implemented digital monitoring and early warning platforms for pests and diseases in terms of growing rice, and likewise in the use of water, soils, and nutrients in different areas. Suriname made headway in terms of digital frameworks for the collection and centralization of information for extension work, and Trinidad and Tobago expanded the use of traceability platforms, bringing together data from production out in the field and up until the final consumer. The FAO also continues to strengthen research and action vis-à-vis resistance to antimicrobials via the different initiatives enabling the reduction of the use of antimicrobials in farms for the sustainable transformation of agri-food systems. And this initiative, aligned with the approach of one single health, promotes the policies based on evidence, good productive practices, and sustainable alternatives that contribute to the protection of human and animal health. On the other hand, the joint FAO Center and the Atomic Energy Agency promotes the safe use of nuclear technologies and its use in agriculture as a fundamental tool in order to strengthen food security and sustainable agricultural development via applied research, technical operations, the transfer of technology, and advice when it comes to public policies. For example, we have registered important progress in different countries. In Peru, the application of nuclear technologies to improve as a result of induced mutation has enabled us to develop an amaranto variety which is of high quality and which has meant an increase of a tenfold increase in its exports to Japan. And in Uruguay, the strengthening of analytical capability of advanced analytical laboratory analysis for the production of antibiotics for bovine meat has been fundamental in order to meet more demanding international standards and to uphold its exporting competitiveness. And based on this, we have promoted Atoms for Food, an initiative geared towards strengthening more sustainable agri-food systems in order to improve food security via flexible services in order to deal with national situations and also design interventions, tailored interventions that leads to better crops, better management of water, animal production, and the control of pests with applied research within this space. Within this framework, the dialogue that we begin today begins with the conviction that the exchange between scientific and academic institutions is fundamental in order to strengthen applied research and innovation and generate contributions that will be fundamental at the regional FAO conference for Latin America and the Caribbean that will be held in Brasilia between the 2nd and 6th of March of this year. I would like to especially thank the steering committee of this consultation, comprised of the spokespersons that were presented during the 38th regional FAO conference, and because their commitment and devotion has been fundamental to develop this process. And finally, I would like to greet the presence and commitment of all participants. I feel that this event will contribute to generating sustainable and inclusive and solutions that will transform agri-food systems in the region to benefit our population and our territory. Thank you very much.
I'd like to thank the opening remarks of our ADG, Mr. Orellana. Next, like Mr. Orellana just said, there is a microphone which is on. Hello, can you hear me okay? No, it's okay. Okay, in order to arrange consultation today, we have had the commitment of the speakers from the previous consultation, like Mr. Orellana just referred to, which put together a committee that for several months have been meeting with us at the FAO to get ready for today. So in order to offer some opening remarks, I'll offer the floor to one of the members of the committee, Ileana Serrano. She's a professor, researcher of the Department of Basic Sciences, Universidad Autónoma Agraria Antonio Narro in Mexico. So, Ileana, welcome. Thank you. Thank you for the kind invitation. And on behalf of the speakers, I will be sharing with you our experience in this position we have been appointed. What was our participation in the 38th conference, as well as in the pilot steering committee in preparation for this consultation for the scientific and academic sector? Let me share now my screen. Can you see my screen?
Sí se ve.
Yes. Thank you.
Permítanme, voy a esconder la barrita esta. A ver, va. Entonces, bueno,
So,
estos somos, bueno, los voceros,
these are the speakers
participamos, como ya les comentaba, en la LARC39,
or representatives which attended the 38th
además de una servidora,
meeting, as well as the steering committee of 2025. We had also Dr. Sofia Bustos. She's a researcher from Flaxo in Chile. Dr. Silvia Luna, she's a researcher by SOCLA in Argentina. Dr. Fabián Martínez Camelo is a researcher with AgroSavia in Colombia, and Dr. Georgina Catacora Vargas. She's also a researcher with the SOCLA, and she works in Bolivia. The role of the scientific and academic sector in attending the 38th conference was mainly based on the presentation of scientific evidence for decisions in food security, nutrition, and climate change, as well as the design of public policies based on evidence and the promotion of healthy and sustainable diet, the prevention of malnutrition in all its forms, the positioning of innovation and technology for agri-food systems for reconversion purposes, as well as for sustainable production of nutritious food, the training of technical capabilities and professional capabilities, and as a bridge between science, public policies, and the territory. Last year, we, as part of the 38th regional conference at the regional office, we held 3 consultations, as referred to before. They were online by sector for non-government stakeholders, for the civil society, for the private sector, and for the scientific and academic sector. Here again, we collected relevant information for the regional conference, in this case, which we'll be doing today in preparation for the 39th conference to be held in Brazil between the 2 and the 6th of March. In this very same session, we appointed, or we elected speakers or the representatives. These are the criteria for selection, which today we will be electing. We took the geographic representation, the gender parity, sector diversity, associations membership, and the integration of new representatives. The election was a hybrid meeting and took place. This was a voluntary application, and then a vote. We voted. That's the evidence that this was a democratic process. We had to share the individual motivations to be part of these, to become speakers, and then the steering committee for the organization of this consultation. The responsibilities. Our responsibilities then was the final draft of the statement of the scientific and academic sector to be read at the LARC38, which took place in Georgetown in Guyana. We met to coordinate the participation of the sector in the conference, for those that who we had to present, we held a series of prior meetings, and everything was online, remotely, from our own areas of expertise. And we also represented the scientific and academic sector in the region and the official meetings of LARC38, not by entity, but as a group. This was a virtual meeting. We attended the senior officers meetings between March the 11th and the 13th for technical discussions. All 5 speakers, and attended the meeting, the ministerial meeting in Guyana between March the 18th and the 22nd for the final decisions of the FAO priorities. This was a hybrid meeting. 2 of our team members attended. Georgina and Sofia attended in person, and 3 of us, we offer our support virtually. We collaborated with the organization, with the next consultation in this in the scientific and academic before the regional conference of this year. So these are the pictures of the plenary sessions of the 38th Regional Conference of FAO for Latin America and the Caribbean on March the 20th, 2024 in Georgetown, Guyana. And was a high-level event with the drivers and triggering factors for the Latin America and the Caribbean. And then we put together the steering committee for the scientific and academic sector in preparation of this session, as well as the drafting of the concept note on the agenda for today, as well as the invitation which was circulated to attend this meeting. This save the date email, in order to define the methodology for the work session this afternoon in order to collect all the opinions in the sector and to support and to submit the final report, which will be submitted to Brazil in March 2 to 6th. So that's a summary of what we will be doing today, and as well as of our participation. It's been a pleasure to collaborate in preparation of the coming conference. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ileana. I'd like to thank everyone in the committee for their contribution, for their time, for your commitment with FAO. Thank you, really. Okay, next. Remember that we have 2 sessions today. The first will until 12:30 Chile time. This is a dialogue with the representatives from the members of the academia and leaders in the FAO. And in the afternoon, starting at 2 p.m. all the way up to 5 p.m., we will have a meeting for scientists and faculty members so that you can react about the contents we'll be sharing this morning, and to coordinate the participation not only in terms of the speakers, but also in terms of contents, the different topics that these speakers will submit to the conference. We will have simultaneous interpretation into English and Spanish. And if you are in the YouTube channel, but you would like to attend this afternoon, you will to sign into the Zoom link. It will be circulating, or I believe is in the conference web page, because in the afternoon there will be no YouTube broadcasting, but we'll only be working through Zoom. And of course, you can share your opinions, suggestions, inputs, ideas, because we're considering we consider that the scientific and academic sector has a lot to contribute, and we're here to listen to you. Okay, now we will have the first presentation then by FAO and the technical leaders in our organization. First, Maya Takagi. She's a FAO Regional Program Leader for Latin America and the Caribbean, and she will be presenting an introduction of the liaison with the FAO and the results we have had since the last conference held up until today. Maya, you have 10 minutes. I'll let you know.
Gracias, Duca. Buenos días a todos y todas. Es un gran gusto estar aquí con ustedes.
Thank you, Duca. It's a great pleasure to be with you all here. And it's great that we have begin this year with the academic and scientific sector. I would like to deliver a presentation related to what we're going to present during the Brazilian conference. The presentation is in 2 languages. The presentation has 3 parts. We'll speak about the results of the work program, the context that brings us together. Why is it that we must continue to discuss the importance of agri-food systems, the challenges that we face, and the recommendations that countries will make. And the third part is the proposed regional priorities that we will be submitting. And in order to align the knowledge, well, the objectives of the regional conference are, first of all, to review the progress in the implementation of the LA of the previous conference, the recommendations of the previous conference. And we thank Ileana for all the activities that have been undertaken to discuss about the present situation of agri-food systems in the region and work program prospects for the next 2-year period. And also to facilitate a dialogue with member states in the region in order to obtain the contributions looking at the next 2-year work program and to inform the preparation of the next conference. In terms of the results of the previous 2-year work program, we have dealt with efficient, inclusive, and sustainable production linked to better production. We have also the second priority is better nutrition, with a focus on the end to hunger and the achievement of food security and nutrition. In terms of better environment, well, sustainable management of natural resources and adaptation to climate change. And in our 4th priority, which is a better life, focusing on the reduction of inequalities, poverty, and the promotion of resilience. So, in a summarized fashion, in the document on results that you will receive in greater detail, you can see some of these greater details, and these are just highlights. We received 73 recommendations from countries. The FAO, as you know, has made headway with the institutional strengthening of the public institutions, farmers' organizations, communities, at national, regional, and municipal levels, and we also work in the strengthening of different supports. We promote investments, innovation, and the generation of knowledge, and it also acts in issues associated to early responses in close alliance with academia, with the scientific sector, with various farmers' organizations, and obviously with governments. And therefore, we have mentioned some examples of promotion of innovation for the production of sustainable food with agroforestry practices to strengthen environmental sustainability in order to improve national water security plans, for example, and other important elements is to strengthen capabilities in the sustainable management of soil, responsible management of agricultural inputs, and using sustainable inputs, and also climate smart agriculture. As I say, all this will be outlined in greater detail in the respective document. We also want to reinforce FAO's commitment in order to eradicate hunger and malnutrition with the updating the nutritional and food security plan of SELAC 2030. And we also want to support FAO-supported programs to improve school feeding programs by reinforcing the governance, the approval of laws about the nutritional value of meals, and also strengthening public policies. Next one. In terms of well, we would also like to highlight the importance of we want to integrate agri-food systems into climate action in order to strengthen national capacities to implement nationally determined contributions and improve access to climate finance. And via FAO projects, we have mobilized more than $158 million in terms of environmental and climate funds. And the idea is to increase the ability of countries to contribute to climate mitigation and adaptation projects, and also the importance of providing technical systems for this. In terms of a better life, what is important is to highlight our contribution to the promotion of investments. Countries require funds to transform their agri-food systems, resulting in national and local development. We have 3 sub-regional programs. The hand-to-hand initiative of the FAO has involved well, we have an investment proposal totaling more than $3 billion. And we also want to highlight the national action plans on the decade of family farming. And these are regional dialogues in the 5 regions promoting innovations and solutions. And it also published a document entitled "A Characterization of Family Farming in Latin America and the Caribbean: Challenges, Evidences, and Prospects." And the FAO also delivered an integrated response in Haiti, combining emergency aid, combining emergencies and sustainable development, and including rapid distribution of agricultural inputs, crop diversification, agroecology, and sustainable land management. And the next one, in order to reinforce our monitoring of these recommendations, we have achieved 100% progress. And I would like to highlight here the importance of agri-food systems in the region. This employs over 100 million people. And if we consider simply the GDP of the agricultural sector, we have a variation of 0.5% in our countries. And if we consider production, processing, transport, and the inputs associated to consumption, will reach up to 30%. In other words, a third part of the economy in the region comes from agriculture, and even up to 50% of employment associated to agri-food systems in some countries. Now, this doesn't mean that we don't have still face challenges. On the contrary, we face many challenges, but we have trying to reduce hunger. There is a lot of disparity at a sub-regional level. Only 4 countries were able to eradicate hunger. We have 2 countries that still have to achieve this, and we also have solutions. So these countries have solutions. The combination of social protection with increasing local production, the use of inclusive value chains, and sustainability are all responses that the region has and that have been promoted successfully. And this has a tremendous impact in our region, the prevalence of underfeeding, and we continue with the issue of the cost of diets. And finally, of course, we have the impact of climate change, both upon the agricultural sector and also on agriculture as a whole, and on systems associated to the change in use of soil, of forestry land. And also aspects related to disasters, and family farmers are the ones that are most heavily impacted and the most vulnerable part. So it's important to continue to reinforce early warning systems. And finally, we have a complex context of low growth over the past decade. We have the lowest figures compared to, or since the 80s. The productivity gaps are enormous compared to higher, and the investment in research and development is very slow, very small compared to other regions. And our poverty is, the prevalence of hunger is poverty. And also we experience informal work, and women have the largest gap in this sense. So now I'd like to offer the floor to my colleague, who will present the priorities that we're putting forward within this context for the next 2-year period. Javier, please be aware of the time that you have available for your presentation. Thank you very much, colleagues. Thank you very much, Maya, for offering us the floor. Good morning, everyone. I'll be talking about priority 1, which is efficient, inclusive, and sustainable production. This priority deals with 5 program areas that seek or that focus our efforts in guaranteeing sustainable production formulas via efficient and and inclusive value chains, ensuring resilience and the sustainability of food systems in environmental and climatic conditions that are often in our region ever-changing. And also via public policy recommendations, the generation of capabilities, the implementation of innovating approaches and the implementation of projects and so on, we provide technical assistance to countries so that they may advance towards production systems that are more sustainable over time. If we go to the next one, we will have 5 program areas that we will very quickly mention. I believe you already have this presentation with you. Basically, we have priority number 1, which is innovation for sustainable agricultural production, where we are promoting the adoption of practices, innovations, and sustainable innovations to improve resilience, the responsible use of natural resources in agri-food systems. We are also promoting, or we seek to promote, integrated agricultural systems, cattle raising and forestry systems, such as agroforestry, for example, and we're also incorporating digitalization issues and the articulation between local knowledge and applied science. And this is also very important in order to promote an adequate governance in productive systems. And likewise, we are promoting the validation and expansion of validations in small-scale agriculture, the development of inclusive value chains, policy and regulatory frameworks that are so that they may also always be aligned to international standards that enable sustainability and innovation. We know that food-producing systems and agri-food systems, water-based agri-food systems often have regional and international frameworks that guide or that determine certain practices, and we always support their adoption. Our second programmatic sphere talks about the blue transformation. This basically includes strategies in order to expand aquatic food systems and improve their contribution to accessible, nutritious diets, supporting environmental management and inclusive growth, especially in small communities that rely upon fishing and aquaculture. And we do this basically via 3 major lines of action, which is a sustainable expansion of aquaculture, the improvement or strengthening of regulation of fishery systems, and strengthening value chains of aquatic food systems. And last, in this slide, we have pillar number 3, which is One Health, and basically there we focus on strengthening, preventing, and on prevention work and our preparedness to pests and emerging challenges to agri-food systems, and always viewing this under the approach of One Health. We have the promotion of coordinated strategies, which is very important. This coordination at a national, regional, and global level in order to face up to these types of threats. So we have integrated early warning systems, biosecurity measures, and risk management for biological threats, and including pests and diseases. And we also have a strong link with the safety of food and food security, and with trade, which begins with this whole chain. And we also strengthen the threat of future pandemics and comprehensively dealing with the management of antimicrobial resistance in agri-food systems and the development of multi-sectorial policies.
En las siguientes esferas programáticas,
in these areas, we have number 4, the small-scale producers' equitable access to resources, where we promote inclusive governance and sustainable governance of natural resources through the strengthening of land ownership rights, equitable access to land, water, forests, and fishing, with a strong emphasis on vulnerable communities such as indigenous peoples, Afro-descendants, women, rural youth, and so on. We also have equitable access to productive processes, services, funding, innovation, and also the strengthening of national capabilities for the generation of data. Data are important to support decision-making and the managing of risks in agri-food systems. Last but not least, number 5, priority number 1, we have digital agriculture, focused on closing the rural digital divide through innovation process identification of technological leadership and the development of digital agents for the last mile, as well as the incubation of inclusive rural digital micro enterprises in rural communities, vulnerable communities mainly, in order to increase the number of jobs, improve livelihoods, and as equitable and sustainable life. That's regional priority number one. And now we will have the next regional priority, Daniela Godoy. Thank you, Javier. I'm Daniela Godoy. I'm a Senior Policy Officer in Food and Nutrition Security for FAO. I'm in charge of area number 2, which is the ending hunger and achieving food security and nutrition for Latin America and the Caribbean. We hope to do this through the generation and analysis of food security and nutrition data, also the generation of evidence for decision-making on public policies through technical assistance to countries and other stakeholders in the design, implementation, and assessment of policies and regulatory frameworks, and the promotion of the intersectoral dialogue of exchange of experiences that create the building of capabilities and a collective action for food security and nutrition. Our proposal sets the following areas: healthy diets for everyone, nutrition for those who are more vulnerable, safe food for everyone, the food lost and waste, transparent markets, the design of global alliance against poverty, and the SAN Select 2030. Let me now explain each one of these program areas. For healthy diets for all, we'd like to reinforce institutions and governance frameworks to advance the realization of the right to adequate food. We also like to generate and analyze evidence on access to and consumption of safe and nutritious food, including cost and access, as referred to Maya. That's very relevant for the region, but also other indicators such as the diversity of diet, which should be part of SDG 2, also support the design and implementation of policies, legal frameworks, and actions that foster healthy food environments and that will promote the increased access to and consumption of healthy diets. We also like to strengthen national capabilities to develop and implement policies such as school feeding programs, fiscal tax program, dietary guidelines, food education, nutrition education, among other measures. And last but not least, to promote intersectoral coordination to engage multiple stakeholders because of the importance it has. That's why for us it's so important to have these consultations, including parliamentarians, academia, civil society, consumers, and the private sector to foster policy convergence and to catalyze collective action around food security and nutrition. For the second program area of nutrition for the most vulnerable, because we know those are the most affected according to the data referred to by the program leader. First is to strengthen data collection and analysis on food security and nutrition, targeting the most vulnerable groups to generate evidence and promote dialogue on nutrition-sensitive social protection, which includes expanding school feeding programs with improved nutritional and including public procurement from family farm. Along with that, to provide technical assistance and policy support of food and cash transfer programs and subsidized food schemes to strengthen access and consumption of a healthy diet among these populations that cannot afford to do so. And to promote cooperation and policy dialogue to address all forms of malnutrition. For the third program area for this priority, which is a safe food for everyone, We like to strengthen our risk analysis capabilities to support evidence-based food safety policies and regulatory measures, to enhance measures to prevent antimicrobial resistance in agri-food systems, and to increase members' participation. All processes in the Codex Alimentarius, standard setting processes, and supportive application of sanitary measures and phytosanitary measures under WTO agreements. Next, please. Now, let me address the last two areas: reducing food loss and waste. Like to first strengthen the data collection, measurement, and reporting capabilities. We know there is a challenge in the region in this area. We also know the importance of reducing food loss and waste from the point of view of the economic side, the social area, like to promote innovation and technology solutions to prevent and reduce food loss and waste across the entire agri-food system, support the development and implementation of context-specific policies, strategies, and legal frameworks aligned with the voluntary code of conduct on FLW, and to foster global and regional partnerships to accelerate action, enhance the knowledge sharing. Our region has lots to show in exchanging experiences at a global level. And for the promotion and the facilitation of agri-food trade, we would like to promote inter-regional agri-food trade to provide technical assistance and capability development for agri-food trade facilitation, addressing tariff, non-tariff, and technical barriers to trade. Third of all, to facilitate access to market information systems, market intelligence, modeling, and forecasting tools, and to strengthen collaboration with regional economic integration bodies and agri-food trade organizations to boost export potential, reduce food import bills, and enhance inter-regional agri-food trade. That's regional priority number 2. And now we will have the colleague for priority number 3. Thank you. Hi, good morning. I'm Melvin Medina. I'm the FAO's a Senior Policy Officer for Agricultural Systems, Water and Land for Latin America and the Caribbean. I'm coordinating the sustainable management of natural resources and adaptation to climate change. As part of this priority, we have 4 program priority areas. First is the climate change mitigating and adapted agri-food systems. Number 2 is bioeconomy for sustainable food and agriculture. Number 3 is biodiversity and ecosystem services for food and agriculture. And number 4 is achieving sustainable urban food systems. I'll be addressing each one of them in the next slide. But let me say that as referred to by the SDG, the priority number 3 is in the context of agri-food systems which are more and more exposed to climate variability and extreme phenomena, which are more frequent and more intense, therefore increasing the number of countries affected by climate events. This has brought about a drop in agricultural productivity, lower incomes, and migration from rural to urban areas. Next, please. Area number 1 has to do expanding sustainable management of natural resources and adaptation to climate change mitigation and adapted agri-food systems, to strengthen technical capabilities, and adaptation and mitigation in agri-food systems to enhance sphere number 2 has to do with consolidating data and information to support a sound decision making in bioeconomics, as well as promoting alliances and consistency of policies and to implement decisions on site. This is something we've been doing in the Amazonian bioeconomy among several projects. Sphere number 3, please, is help and keep and restore the ecosystem services through sustainable management of the landscape, supported by mobilization of environmental funding. And number 4 is supported transition towards sustainable urban food systems, improving the public and private capabilities by modernizing supply systems and marketing systems of food, as well as strengthening the governance among sectors for food security. Among some of the actions we may refer to in the region, for priority number 3, is in South America, in the prioritization of the restoration of ecosystems to address biodiversity, to strengthen ecosystem services. Also, the dry corridor in Mesoamerica, to focus on the restoration of our landscape and reducing the emissions from forestry degradation. And in the Caribbean, the preservation and revegetation of coastal and marine ecosystems. In closing, through priority number 3, we've been supporting our members against climate change, adaptation, and of services, but safeguarding the food security and livelihoods, using our technical capabilities as well as the country's capabilities by facilitating access to climate funding and by promoting inclusive policies, improving resilience and infrastructure and forestry and rural communities, as well as promoting sustainable practices, reducing emissions, and restoring ecosystems and improving the efficiency of resources with particular attention to vulnerable populations. So that's what I had for priority number 3, and thank you for your time. Now I give you the next colleague on priority number 4. Thank you very much.
Gracias, Melvin. Adelante.
Muchas gracias, Melvin y Duca. Bueno, primero que todo quisiera
Thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to say very good morning to all of you that accompany us today in this very important event in preparation for the 39th version of the conference. Today, I'll talk about regional priority number 4, focusing on the reduction of inequalities and poverty and increasing resilience, in order to present the programmatic suggestion that we're preparing for the next 2-year period, 26-27. Now, as mentioned at the beginning, poverty and inequality in Latin America and the Caribbean continue to be primarily rural in nature. Despite the progress that has been achieved in previous decades, this progress has been stagnated, and practically 40% of rural areas experience poverty, at around 20% experience extreme poverty. Now, this figure reflects the structural gaps that still exist in access to decent employment, to land, to basic services, and the markets faced by these populations. The high labor informality and the inequalities that impact rural communities, and especially women, indigenous peoples, Afro-descendants, youth, and so on, severely limit development possibilities, and means that these territories are especially vulnerable to crises and shocks. And within this context, we find regional priority number 4, which is implemented via 6 different spheres in terms of within the sphere of better life. And I will discuss this in greater depth together, which is what we're suggesting for this next 2-year period. A first fundamental axis of this priority, of regional priority number 4, is gender equality and the empowerment of rural women. The reduction of rural poverty is impossible if we don't bridge the gaps faced by women in terms of access to revenues, productive activities and services, and without also acknowledging and strengthening the economy of care that upholds rural activity, but continues to be invisible. Within this framework, regional priority 4 seeks to promote the economic empowerment of women and to strengthen the economy of care as fundamental in order to advance to more equitable and accessible territories. The second programmatic sphere is inclusive rural transformation, and this is a fundamental aspect of regional priority number 4 in order to advance in terms of the social, economic, and productive inclusion of indigenous peoples and Afro-descendant people and of rural youth. In that sense, this has 3 basic lines of action. First of all, to promote the different programs and policies that promote social inclusion, both economic and productive, of indigenous peoples and Afro-descendants. Secondly, we seek to support countries to design policy frameworks, programs, platforms, and tools in order to strengthen family farming, and with the implementation of the UN Decade for Family Farming, which will be ongoing until 2028. And we also wish to strengthen the coherence and synergies between national social protection systems and the rural development initiatives. And with this approach, basically to move from segmented policies towards more integrated strategies, whereby social inclusion and protection not only contributes to the reduction of poverty, but also enable sustainable development in rural territories. Other aspect related is to incorporate the dimension of crises and shocks, which is increasingly important in rural contexts. Within this sphere, Regional Priority 4 seeks to develop early warning multi-hazard systems, including local and community systems, in order to enable inclusive and anticipatory measures and for the preparedness faced with risks, and also to strengthen the resilience of the livelihoods and risk management, and including the recovery of rural territories and agri-food systems that are impacted by socio-economic crises and conflicts. And this enables us to protect the progress in terms of reducing poverty and also mitigating the impact of recurrent crises, impacting the most vulnerable rural population. Next slide, please. Our fourth programmatic area in our regional priority number 4 is to promote in order to achieve resilient food systems. In that sense, we seek to improve the risk management via social protection and inclusion in countries impacted by disasters and food crises, and also to generate data analysis in order to inform public policies based on evidence for early action, including the analysis on the return over investment. And we seek to move towards a more preventive type of public policies, and much more efficient and cost-effective to reduce the human and physical costs involved in implicit in late response. Sphere number 5 focuses on the initiative Mano de la Mano, the hand-in-hand initiative, which has been fundamental for regional priority number 4. Here, the FAO works in improving the analytical capacities for investment decision-making based on evidence and territorial development through the initiative, the hand-in-hand initiative. And this enables us to identify priority territories and to align the objectives to reduce poverty, resilience, and productivity with comprehensive territorial development strategies. And finally, sphere number 6, which is the scale-up of investments, seeks to obtain resources that enables these processes to be ongoing over time. And regional priority number 4 promotes the support of innovating mechanisms for enabling public and private investment for territorial development, such as irrigation infrastructure, digitalization, and rural connectivity. To mention but a few, these component is fundamental in order to ensure the sustainability of interventions over time. And in order to conclude, I would like to summarize by saying that regional priority number 4 deals with the structural causes of poverty and with of rural inequality, seeking to strengthen resilience against crises that are increasingly frequent. We need to integrate gender equality, risk management, territorial development, among others, with a clear objective, which is to improve the life of rural communities and ensuring that the transformation of agri-food systems be truly inclusive and resilient without leaving no one behind. Thank you very much. Thank you, Maria Ignacia. Thank you, colleagues. And now we conclude. We would like to say that this is a wide-ranging agenda. There is a lot to do. There is a lot of us working on this, and there is still a lot to do in the future. I believe that we have defined this in a very summarized manner, and we have discussed all these issues that our colleagues have presented. And many of these issues are, of course, intertwined or linked to each other. And now we come to the richest part of our agenda, I would say, which is to listen to you, to listen to your comments. We have taken note of many of the questions that we have already received that have been posted in the chat, but also via YouTube. And so to the extent that we receive these, we will answer these in the chats, but our colleagues will also be able to speak later on. So now I open up the floor, first of all, for those that may want to speak up, and if so, please raise your hands if you have any comments to make. Let me see if somebody has already raised his or her hand. Well, not yet. No, not yet. No one has yet raised his or her hand for comments. So the floor is open. And I would like to encourage you to make comments, suggestions, and even criticisms, because, of course, we welcome constructive criticism. I see that there is a person that is taking notes. Let's see, somebody has asked in the chat whether we were going to share a minute or a report of this, and I would like to tell you that we will upload a summary of this session to the webpage of the consultation, and this session has also been recorded, and we will also be uploading that recording to the consultation webpage. Let's see, some people have now raised their hand. We'll go to that before we answer the questions that have been posted in the chat. Fernando, I ask you to introduce yourselves, your names, your institutions, and your countries, so that we can move on to the session. Thank you very much. I'll be very concise in my observations. First of all, I would like to congratulate all the people that have delivered their presentations. The presentations have been truly very enriching and encouraging. I am full of notes that I have taken listening to the various presentations that have been delivered so far in this great conference. My main question has already been partially answered with the comments that you have just shared with us. I hope that in addition to gaining access to the presentations via the web page or whatever, that the main challenge that one faces is information about how these changes, transformations, and progress has actually been achieved with empirical evidence. I focus heavily on the empirical, practical world, and therefore, every time that I heard what was said, I of course applauded them. I believe that the strategic vision behind that was very clear, and in consequence, they are very useful for all of us in countries of the region in order to guide national and also territorial programs. I believe that all countries in Latin America and of the world perhaps are working on what in Colombia we call the public policies at a territorial level. In other words, no longer national policies, but rather policies related to the regional dimension. And I'm not talking of the Latin American region, but of the intra-national region within each country in the territories that are included in each nation. But that is where one faces the need to have access to more concrete information on experiences in Bolivia, in Peru, in Central America, in Chile, wherever, so that we can truly evidence how that progress is achieved with those 4 or 5 major regional development objectives. That is my comment. I would like to end up by congratulating the presentations delivered by the different presenters. The information that they have provided us is very useful, and I hope to gain access to that presentation either tomorrow or this afternoon. But beyond that, I do want via you or via additional FAO documents and reports to gain access to empirical evidence of this in terms of how all this has been implemented in this or that country. And even in which territory of different countries, because in a country like Colombia, for example, one thing is the Caribbean Colombia, and a different story is the area that we share with Brazil and with other countries, and what happens also in the Pacific. Our country is very rich, and agriculture varies enormously from one territory to the other. These are my comments, but above all, I would like to thank you for the presentations that have been excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fernando. We might have a reaction at the end of the session. Let's now listen to Walter Alberto Peña. Walter, if you let us know who you represent and your country. Thank you. Hi. Good morning, everyone. I'm Walter Peña. I lead a research group at GEPANGA, the University of Buenos Aires. I'm author of the IPCC Index and as well as the TIP. Looking at the active participation of younger people, comes to my mind that many times in your presentations you talked about hunger. And FAO, it's celebrating 80 years of establishment. And I hear the José de Castro's remarks of hunger is the biological manifestation of a sociological disease. And here at the FAO, when I was reviewing in the library, I found 2 of his books, Geography of Hunger and Geopolitics of Hunger. 80 years after that, this is still current, which has been, because it has been unsolved. And as scientists, we have a responsibility here in the analysis of some of the things that have to do with complexity. And there, my first question is, I see proposals for analysis and looking for results, but I don't see integration of natural, renewable, non-renewable resources, climate change, health for the population in a comprehensive manner. And I know for a fact that in the last few years, especially in the last 5 years, there are certain reports on the complexity and integrating complexity focused mainly on food systems. That's why my first question is, how have you worked, scientifically speaking, these areas, and how do you propose this for the region? The second question or comment has to do with the social dimensions of the discussion. That is, how are you analyzing, bearing in mind that Latin America is a region, or one of the wealthiest region in terms of land availability? There's things that have to do with the existing and growing tensions, the use of our base resources such as land. And if you have done, I've said this many times. We don't, nobody wants to do that, but we have to bear in mind we cannot put it under the rug, under the carpet. How do we face not only issues with economic systems and inequalities in trade, but also the conflict and war conflict scenarios, which are a matter of concern, as you all know. The other thing has to do with the effects and distorting subsidies being applied, especially in more developed countries, which have an overwhelming impact on small and middle-sized farmers all over the developing world. But nobody says anything. Those subsidies, EU, Japan, US, are strongly affecting our small and middle-sized farmers, saying that we need more agroecology with the funding these for some specific benefits. I believe it's not enough. And my last comment or question is around distorting investments happening today, which are being suggested from the point of view of a green economy or bioeconomy. The case of Brazil is really interesting to review, but the effects of these distorting investment. In the last IPES document, over 105 US billion worldwide, we believe 22 trillions, this is in distortive subsidies. Thank you, Walter. Really very good points you have shared. We will see who will react to that. Then Carla Sandoval, tell us your organization and your country. Good morning, everyone. I'm Carla Sandoval. I'm the Universidad Técnica del Norte in Ecuador, northern Ecuador. My area of expertise is biotechnology. And let me comment the excellent presentation. Well, lots to do. But I have a question as well as a suggestion, if I may. As part of regional priority and sustainable process system was blue transformation. In many areas, there's always an emphasis on blue transformation, blue bioeconomy, and among many other things. The marine area, my area of work, for instance, are the high-ending microorganism in lakes and lagoons. So when we like to discuss that, we emphasize these microorganisms and we emphasize marine microorganisms, but there is a high diversities in lakes and lagoons and ponds and falls, which are very important like systems, especially in the high Andes, where we work as a university. So I would like to consider these ecosystems as part of this sustainable objection. At our university, would like to isolate these microorganisms, use them to replace proteins, use them as bioinputs, because in the high Andes, they have a very interesting metabolism, but it's really difficult. This is strongly related to fishery, fishery, marine ecosystems, but I believe diversity is much wider than that. So this is a suggestion I have in order to include in the regional priority #1. Thank you for the invitation once again, and thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, Carla. And now the next person, Laura Astigarraga. Laura. Thank you for the presentations. Listening to the presentations. Well, I'm sorry. I'm Laura Astigarraga. I'm a faculty in agronomics at the Universidad de la República in Uruguay. I'm coordinator of the Interdisciplinary Center for Response to Climate Change and Variability. Listening to the presentations, FAO, of course, works very strong on the more government dimension, public policies, and my experience, and this is the question I have, because I didn't see this in your presentation, is whether FAO is working on the area of training of public policy managers, that is, governments. Sometimes you try to strengthen political science dialogues, but that link is challenging because of the difficulty of having qualified counterparts to work in the area of adaptation to climate change, for instance. So my main concern and my question is whether you have a specific area where you can train public policy managers related to climate adaptation and variability. Thank you, Laura. Veronica now. Veronica Cesio. Please let us, where you come from? Where you, Veronica. Hi, can you hear me okay? Hi, I can't turn my camera on. No, there it is. Oh, hi, good morning. Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. I'm Veronica Cesio. I'm a faculty at the Universidad de la República in Uruguay, like Laura, but I'm teach chemistry, and now I'm part of an institute cutting across university, which is the Institute of One Health Research Institute. We will try to have this human, animal, environmental health concept. I'm in analytical chemistry, and I've been working with FAO, especially from the point of view of food safety and the study of environmental impact to achieve this One Health, which is promoted by FAO in SDGs. And I've worked with Latin America, but I have the honor to be part of the meeting of 80 years of FAO in Rome, and I see there's a lot of things we've been talking among colleagues in 2021 to continue to provide additional elements to Latin America, which was focused on primary production for exports, but we neglect the fact that production has to be both domestic and export oriented. So based on what I've experienced, what I've attended through my university in discussions and training programs, I'm open to discussions after the meeting, and of course, I'd like to thank you for the invitation once again. Thank you, Veronica. For those who don't know, Veronica was one of the speakers, one of the previous conferences. I believe was in Ecuador, right? Ecuador. I was in the middle of the pandemic, so despite we were 5 of us, we made a decision of well, of course, to declare on behalf of FAU, but I represented the academia because it was in the middle of the pandemic. It was the first international meeting I attended as part of FAO, which was very good. I believe that despite the progress has been made, let me commend the colleagues attended in Guyana, in Georgetown. I looked at the presentation. I believe progress is made, but still we can move even further. So from here, if you need any help, I'm willing to offer it. So thank you. Let me show you how to raise your hand. Some of you are not being able to show your hands. So on your screen, there is a heart. It says react. Click on that, and then there is a hand, which reads raising hand, and that's how you call. Then we'll have Adolfo Cazorla. Welcome. Where are you from? What country?
I am the coordinator of a Meta University for Sustainable Development and working with universities and companies from 13 different countries in Latin America. And I would like to make a comment related to what Maria has said in terms of regional priority number 4. The experience in this past year in 2025, as you know, this was the International Year of Cooperatives, and we had a group of leaders, women working in cooperatives from different countries, and one of the things that perhaps should be included in that empowerment that has been mentioned is how to specify the association and training capability or the economic training so that we can, because we have spoken about the economy of care, but also about the economy in order to gain market access, because the experience that we have had, and that is what where we have focused, and given the fact that reference has been made to this, and I believe that Chaparro mentioned, referred to this, this is in the responsible investment in agriculture, because that involves social, economic, and environmental aspects. But something that is often forgotten is the key to good government, which is transparency, the struggle against corruption, accountability. And I believe that the FAO has an important role to play there, because it's pointless struggling for against climate change if there is no adequate management and responsible management of this later on. I believe that this is a comment that is worthwhile making. And given the fact that 2026 is the year of women in agriculture, I believe that we are adequately poised to promote that initiative of economic growth, strengthening the capabilities that women have, and also determining how they can have better tools at hand. And Lucas and Vicente are aware of that. And I am referring to artificial intelligence. And this has to do with the role of academics and universities, which can be useful as a tool. That is basically what I wanted to contribute with. Thank you, Adolfo. We have accompanied the work of the Meta University in the region, and maybe Adolfo could put or share with us the link of the Meta University so that our colleagues could have a look at the work that has been undertaken during the year. Let's see, the next person is Gustavo Wilches. Gustavo, please tell us what university or institution you come from and the country that you're speaking from. You're very, very welcome. Thank you. Thank you very much. My name is Gustavo Wilches Chaux, speaking as from Bogota in Colombia. I am a researcher of Universidad Externa de Colombia and also of Escuela Nacional de Protección Civil in Chiapas, Mexico, where I have a course entitled Changing Disasters into Lessons. And I experienced different earthquakes in this region in the 90s. And I have therefore learned, I have learned how to turn disasters into lessons. First of all, I would like to highlight the importance of today's event, which I truly believe is also a postgraduate course because of the depth of what is being discussed. And I would simply like to refer to some issues that are implicit in what I have heard, and I would like to make them more explicit. First of all, the issue of urban centricism. During the previous elections for the mayor of Bogota, there were 4 men candidates, and somebody already referred to the importance of the gender approach, but 4 candidates were male. And Bogota has 160 million hectares and only 40 million hectares. In other words, so the 4th part of that surface is urban Bogota. The rest is rural Bogota. And the proposals of the 4 candidates were about the urban Bogota exclusively, and that is repeated at different levels in Colombia and at different levels throughout the world. And I always quote someone that, regrettably, I can't remember the name of the author, who said that the rural area is that stupid place where chicken walk around alive. That is not valid in the case of the FAO, but in the world of development, the rural area is often conceived as a development problem that has to be overcome. Another issue that is of great interest to me is the awareness that humans alone are not able to resolve this. We need to enter into an alliance with all living entities in the planet, and of course, with water as well. And therefore, we face a major challenge in terms of how to enter into these alliances in a conscious manner, recognizing that the river, for example, is not only an object, but rather a decisive stakeholder in our territory, and that we have to learn to consult them with it so that we don't force it to complain when its rights have been violated. And that is another aspect that I feel is very important to highlight. Thirdly, the fact that, and I think that this is not only valid for Colombia, but also for other parts, communities that are being impacted strongly by the climatic crisis, forced to be displaced as a result of the climate crisis. And many of them are at the same time impacted by an armed conflict. A very pathetic and regrettable case is what we're experiencing in Gaza, and especially with children in Gaza who are being impacted by that horrible armed conflict and a whole series of climatic aspects that are impacting us. So we face a major challenge in terms of how to develop a wide-ranging resilience. I always mention that little details can be impacted by different levels of impacts, and therefore we need to strengthen those spiders that produce these webs and recompose our environment. And these are all challenges that, as I say, may not be explicit in everything, that may not be that obvious, but in this conference, this conference shows that the FAO is one of the institutions where there is greater clarity, but we need to inoculate those viruses that are taking place here with other development sectors and with in other decision-making sectors and with other community leadership. So again, thank you very much for the invitation for this event. I was the person who also asked where this was going to be recorded, because I want to go back to this and devote the number of hours that each intervention deserves. But that is as far as I would like to go now with my comment. Thank you very much, Dr. Gustavo. I insist and remind you that this video will to the consultation webpage, and maybe we can again post the link of that webpage where we will upload the video, and also a summary document where we will also post a summary document of this event. I like the issue of the wide-ranging resilience that you spoke of, and maybe our colleagues can will also refer to that. And now let's offer the floor to Juan Pablo Alvarez. Juan Pablo, please go ahead. Introduce yourself, which country and institution you are talking from. My name is Juan Pablo Alvarez Orias from Bolivia, from Universidad Mayor Real and Pontificia of San Francisco de Chusquisaca, and I would like to congratulate all presenters. Because we have been discussing very important issues, and here I would like us to reflect on some points. Our continent is a continent where we have a lot of migration from rural to urban areas, and we are also working in order to create the possibility of a balanced and sustainable development in intermediate cities. But what is it that we can do in cities that are consolidated and also in intermediate cities? Well, we have developed an interesting relationship with around the issue of family farming with urban farming. Let us remember that when somebody from rural areas travels to cities, they take with them their experience and knowledge, and that is something that we cannot do away with. We must benefit from that. It's important to benefit from that experience. But in addition, this issue also helps us with the economic realities of our countries in Latin America. As you well know, in Bolivia, we have been subsidizing fossil fuels until a few months ago, with very high subsidies for both gasoline and diesel fuel. And that generated a special reality in our country. So there was a high subsidy for food production for the major producers, but that subsidy has been taken away. And therefore, we must start to study what is happening with family agriculture and what is also happening with this agriculture that is not subsidized, because that makes food much more expensive, and that also means that food suffers from pressures because inflation processes take place. And I have been working with water basins. The issue of water is very important. The communities need to have water available to them. And what is happening in our continent is the increasing use of waste water. And this is something that we need to analyze because there is water stress is a reality, and that is being resolved via the availability of wastewater. These are issues that I would like us to discuss and mention as concerns for our continent. Thank you very much, and greetings as from Bolivia. Thank you, Juan Pablo. I don't see that anyone else has raised his or her hand. Oh no, now we can see.
Buenos días con todos y todas de Ecuador, de la Universidad Politécnica.
Good morning. I come from Ecuador, from Universidad Politécnica Salesiana, and we also work with Adolfo, and this is something that we could work with ancestral knowledge linked to community water management, where we resort to the wisdom of Andean communities who manage water, resorting to their customs and traditions, and that has enabled resilience in the production of healthy food with these approaches of regenerative agriculture, biodynamic agriculture, and also with the production of the Andean family orchards, which has been acknowledged as a production system by the FAO for a couple of years now. And in the case of our countries, to work around this issue, not only as from the food security perspective, but also as from the food sovereignty perspective, which is something that is enshrined in our constitutions as an aspect of buen vivir, of an adequate livelihood, which includes food sovereignty. And in this sense, Universidad Técnica Salesiana, together with and in other research centers, well, we are working precisely in that process, and therefore I believe I thank you for these events and for inviting us, because this enables us to share with you these elements that I believe will enrich the work undertaken by the FAO, especially here in the Latin America. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Charles. Then Orlando Samuel Miño. Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Orlando Samuel Miño. I'm with INTA, the National Institute of Agricultural Technology in Argentina. I worked 20 years in vaccines, infectious diseases, high complexity laboratories, but 5 years ago, I moved to experimental station at Misiones in Argentina, where I'm more exposed to local rural producers, trying to bring the knowledge of big cities, Europe, Asia, US, to producers. And many of the things are different. I fully agree that we have to move towards an inclusive, sustainable, and efficient production. We have to work on putting an end to hunger, better manage our natural resources, and deal with the rural employment and gender equality. But the reality I find among agricultural communities of agricultural families is completely different. So my point is to discuss, for instance, I'm in a province where we produce tea, mate, and many pines, eucalyptus. But production of tea and mate, we use a 200-year-old technique in the same way we used to do it 200 years ago. From our institute, we have technology to increase production, enhance production, make the job easier, make it more equitable. But if we implement technologies in this type of production, people will lose jobs. Rural jobs would be lost. We promote sustainable production with environment, and we offer alternatives, the use of agrochemicals, alternatives to deforestation, and alternatives which are more friendly with the environment. But that's make products more expensive when they sell their products to concentrators or when they selling that to local consumers. So technologies are not adopted because they cannot sell their products otherwise. So what do we find then? We bring technology to the agricultural families, and when approaching technologies to them, the use of drones or applications for getting better access to analysis of soil, water, climate. Well, that makes the youth leave the rural areas. They go to the cities, and we see a disbanding of the agricultural family. So we would like to have a real, honest discussion as to what extent very romantic and beautiful policies are really applicable, and to what extent these may be applied in countries where the decisions depend on politics. I live in a border, Argentina, Brazil. It's called the Uruguay, and if you look at the bank, one area is protecting the environment, lots of parks, natural resources, and right across, it's large scale production. No trees. Okay, the environment is good, but economically are less competitive. So at the end of the day, producers they want to live better. Uh, uh, Farmers would like to have a better livelihood, uh, uh, pay for a better school, having more comfort. Unfortunately, that depends on their incomes they have as a family or as a small business. So my discussion, I don't really have a solution, but my proposal is how do we really apply all these policies, all these uh, aspects so as to really make a change. Change is necessary, but difficult to achieve. I come from the academia. Now I'm more on the ground, on site, and the language we speak is different. Thank you. I'm open to your comments. Thank you, Orlando, for sharing your experience and the contradictions that you face in the territory, which are probably true in all their territories. Pilar Buera. Hi, good morning. I'm with the Universidad de Buenos Aires, the Institute of Technology for Food called ITAPROC, which is part of the university, and ISET, which is our Board of Science and Technology Board. First of all, thank you for the presentations. Very valuable presentations, and they share concepts on which we need to work and think, as well as the comments. As to Orlando, we work on circular economy from the point of view of recovery of compost from food industry wastes. Our challenge is to make it affordable. Working on projects or technologies which are expensive or that will not be implemented is useless. From the scientific point of view, those they are interesting. But as far as the application is concerned, that is facilitating the use of resources, then things are more difficult. And our challenge, on the one hand, is to make these processes more affordable, work on processes that are compatible with the environment and the life quality of people, but also with an economic return. And that's the challenge. And the other thing, another challenge for us is transfer. Our organizations are ready for transfer systems which are a bit challenging, cumbersome. Sometimes it's too long, time consuming, and nothing is actually realized. So those are the two challenges we have. Show producers technologies that will have a full management of resources, and on the other hand, transfer, an effective transfer to the productive sector. And I will concur to Orlando. Take rural populations, technologies, including digital technology, without affecting or dismantling their societies. That I believe it's important. I believe that it is possible. But of course, there are certain barriers and constraints we have not seen. So that's why it's good to work from technology to promote the environment and the life quality of people. Thank you, Pilar. Quite along the same lines with Orlando. Okay, next we have Franz Cajisaya. Franz, if you could introduce yourself. Thank you. Thank you for the kind invitation. I'm Franz Cajisaya. I'm part of a project, the FAO project in Bolivia, climate change resilience. One of the topics that draw my attention was ecosystem restoration, which is very important to address climate change resilience, is recovering those ecosystems where long ago communities developed their productive activities. We face these activities with resilient production, sustainable management, use of water, efficient use of water, another component, which is the basing approach. Basing, as project, we're facing the restoration of ecosystems. In this presentation I've attended, we should suggest actions that can or that may encompass many of the activities in a community with the rural families. For instance, if we do not consider a topic from the point of view of a basin, if we do not consider the cultural, economic, social, I mean, these are components that should be part of the analysis so as to achieve an efficient restoration of communities so that the communities can have healthy ecosystems with environmental solutions so that they can get the benefits from this project. We're facing political incidents on local department to governments, a community-based policy. If a community, for instance, does not have a policy for protection, for conservation, for recuperation or restoration and rehabilitation, no other action project will have the results or the effects. We would like to see how to have a binding actions, conservation of water sources, for instance. This is a community policy because the community feels that these resources decreasing or it's not being well used. So what do we need to do? These has to be binding for the community. among all the families in the territory. And these families then can build their community policies. What do I mean by that? Any other community development program reaching communities through international cooperation or local government or national governments. If there is a productive development project for bananas, the first project should consider conservation and the protection of water sources. As a local policy, we can do a lot more, and having these incidents would be very important for these stakeholders. Thank you very much. Thank you, Franz. And I see no other hand. We have taken note of all the questions, and we have a couple of reactions. We are doing, we're okay time-wise. So if you still have more comments, otherwise we go back to our colleagues for reactions. Up at least 5 minutes before closing the session. Javier? Probably the last one. Javier, your microphone is off. Okay, good morning. Apologies. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm from Quito, Ecuador. I'm a faculty at the Universidad Central in Ecuador and associate researcher from Pontificia Universidad Católica de Ecuador in Santo Domingo. For achieving healthy diets, maybe we should include also food without pesticide wastes or traces. In Latin America, many countries are very pesticide intensive per hectare, with the negative effects, not only the quality of food items, but also negative effects on biodiversity. We're losing biodiversity in terms of beneficial insects, natural enemies of pests, native bees for pollination. Oh, that's my contribution. And thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Javier. An important issue for public health. Aaron, please go ahead. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity. The system doesn't allow me to turn my camera on, but I would like to greet you from Mexico, from the Centro de Investigación en la Alimentación y Desarrollo, CIAT, which is a research center belonging to the Ministry of Science, Humanities, Technology and Innovation. And I would like to thank the FAO for the opportunity it has given me of taking part in this important event. I would like to simply emphasize the importance of food environments, which is what we find in major cities is distorted food environments. That is what we find in major cities, and therefore I would like to emphasize on this work that we have to undertake in terms of providing the sustainable food and sustainable and safe and secure food environments in terms of the food that is marketed, and also focusing on what must be done in order to counteract the impact of ultra-processed products that are very prevalent in the market and that have substituted a natural food, have displaced ancestral diets with these types of products that regrettably leads to a very severe health situation. In the case of Mexico, Mexico holds the first place, regrettably, in this sense. So it has been very enriching to listen to all our colleagues. But I would like to end with this sustainable and safe food environments for the population. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Aaron. It is now midday here in Chile, and I believe that we could bring this block to an end. I would like to offer the floor to my colleagues for quick reactions, no more than 5 minutes each. I have seen that many of the comments and questions have already been answered via the chat. So I would simply ask you to raise the most important or the most strategic points of today's session. I would like to begin with Javier. And this is open. Who wants to start? Yes, I'll start. Well, thank you very much. First of all, I would truly like to thank you all for your interventions. Your comments are truly very valuable. There are many relevant and important issues that we will take into consideration in the work that we will undertake looking ahead towards the conference and also to the next 2-year period. I would like to refer to some aspects that have come up. What was discussed at length was the importance of working on evidence-based policies, and there the role of the scientific and academic sector is fundamental so that we may together work and make headway in this sense. In the case of better nutrition, the evidence is truly very relevant, especially when it comes, for example, to how Latin America and the Caribbean have made progress in terms of the reduction of the prevalence of hunger and of food insecurity, and yet we still have a long way to go in terms of knowing more about how we are making progress in terms of how to focus on the vulnerable population, because it is indeed women that suffer from food insecurity more than men. We have discussed urbanization and the rural situation. Rural populations suffer from greater food insecurity than other populations, and therefore I believe that evidence in that sense is truly very important. And what was also mentioned during the last interventions was the importance of making progress with evidence-based, more healthy food environments with safe food, secure food, and also involving the environmental component. And I would also like to refer to the importance of continuing to build evidence for the policies and interventions that reduce the prevalence of overweight, of obesity, and of course in territories that have fallen behind the development, the delay in development that is still present in our region. And there I would like to highlight the importance of how to bring all that down to the level of our territories, as mentioned at the beginning of the interventions. I would also like to refer to many of the questions and comments made around the importance of having comprehensive policies in place involving the whole agri-food systems so that we can deal with complex issues such as the prevalence of hunger. I believe that that point is very important, and undoubtedly what is also very relevant is the work that is underway as from academia and as from the scientific sector, and how we as FAO can work together in order to make progress in different countries. Another important aspect that was mentioned is how to make progress with policies and actions aligned with the environment, but also with the population's health. When we talk about food, when we talk about food security, when we talk about nutrition, we are indeed talking not only about how to contribute to the health of population, but also about how via diets we are able to also make a contribution to environmental aspects. And finally, I would also like to focus on the importance that was that was highlighted in terms of the One Health approach and the importance of considering food security and healthy diets, because if we don't consider food security, we cannot talk about access, we cannot talk about consumption, nor can we talk about nutrition. And therefore, I would like to thank you for those interventions in terms of the impact of the quality of food when it comes to aspects such as biodiversity. So thank you very much. We have taken due note of each one of your interventions, and we will be contacting you for future activities or events where we will require your knowledge and your experience that is fundamental for us, so that we can continue to advance towards food security and nutrition in our region. Thank you. Thank you, Daniela. Let's see, who else wants to speak? Javier, Melvin, Maria Ignacia. Perhaps I can continue in order to supplement what colleague Daniela has mentioned about One Health. There was an intervention about this approach, and it's important also to mention that within the FAO, we work with the programmatic approach that involves four improvements. We're not talking different programs or approaches, but rather of the supplementary nature of this and of the synergies among our different teams. In terms of One Health, we must look at this or view this as a comprehensive system: food security, the productive use of pesticides. All this falls within the One Health approach, because we deal with this interconnection between animal, vegetable, human health, and also environmental health. The whole chain, as from production to consumption, and therefore, I would like to mention that our approach is holistic, it integrates all these ideas, and we have many technical officials in the FAO that work jointly in order to achieve this impact and these actions. You also referred to the blue transformation and to the approach that has been had on the marine world, so to speak. When we talk of blue transformation, we talk about aquatic food systems, and we talk about continental water bodies, we talk about lakes, rivers, waterfalls, we talk of seas, oceans, aquaculture, we talk of all types of aquatic food systems that are present in around the blue transformation. We have an initiative at a global level, which is the integrated management of water basins, which is often our framework, our basis to work on aspects related to continental waters and bioeconomy, of course, which implies that we also work hand in hand with priority number 3 related to a better environment. I would also like to thank the interventions that have been delivered, some of them very enriching for us. These major challenges, as the ones that have been mentioned, in terms of having at a territorial level the best practices available, that aspect of inclusion, and that is why priority 1 refers to inclusivity, where we have local producers, local knowledge, ancestral or indigenous knowledge. That is what we also want to incorporate, and we want them to be added to productive systems so that they can be more efficient and sustainable over time. I am trying to look at some things in my notes. Many of the questions were answered via the chat, but it's also important to mention, for example, let's see, somebody asked about agricultural and livestock advice work. All this is tremendously important in order to bring down to earth, to bring technical assistance down to earth. Somebody asked about the last mile. The last mile is basically, or refers basically to these agents that have been gained access to territory. And we have to identify these people, these organizations, groups or institutions that have the ability or can gain access to some populations, to some territories, and to some groups in order to produce the impacts that we are seeking. Thus, the importance of this joint work among all stakeholders that come together when it comes to the achievement of these major results. And to conclude, Dukler, I think a lot was mentioned about the public policy, and that has to do with all the 4 different improvements. But it's important to mention that we need to build this as from the territories and to skip to the regional, national parts, trying always to align all efforts and even align this with the international frameworks that are in place in order to regulate the production of food systems. Thank you, Javier. Now we have Melvin or Maria.
Si quieren, Melvin, no sé, ¿quieres ir tú primero? Adelante.
Sí, solo creo que para complementar un poco también lo que ha mencionado
Just
Javier.
to supplement what Javier has mentioned, first of all, thank you very much for all the comments. They have all been very valid in terms of what we do here as technical officers. I would like to very quickly mention that indeed, in terms of the FAO in our region, we consider water, earth, land, soil as a single issue. We cannot separate this. This, of course, has to do with all the regional priorities as mentioned by Javier. So we work together. Our projects are always designed and implemented involving this technical support. Some examples that could be mentioned: always protect biodiversity, land, and why? Because it's important. Well, let's see, water is in that land, and therefore we need to ensure that we can gain access to these natural resources in a sustainable manner. The issue of land ownership and of the ownership of water is something that we're working on, and we're providing training with the support of several countries of Latin America and the Caribbean. And for the person that talked a little bit about training in climatic action, well, we have a platform called PLACA. It's the platform for climatic action on agriculture in Latin America and the Caribbean. And through that platform, well, the FAO acts as secretariat of that platform. And through that platform, we have provided training in terms of adaptation to climate change and so on, aimed at countries of Latin America and the Caribbean. And we coordinate directly with the Ministries of Agriculture to provide, basic knowledge. I would also like to mention the technological TPPs, technological packages do not imply recipes. They must always be produced with a very high level of adaptation to each region, to each community, including climatic, environmental, economic aspects, and so on. And I would also, let's see, somebody talked about public policies, local policies, and that is extremely important. We must always take all these factors into consideration: cultural, social, political, economic, environmental factors, and also productive aspects in order to restore ecosystemic systems. We must always take this into consideration, especially when we talk about water sources. Local governments must be fully involved in this in order to help us to avoid conflicts. Water sources have less water over time, and we must look at this as a whole, as from the macro basin and until we reach the plots of land that farmers have. That is what I wanted to mention. Thank you very much, and thank you for your comments.
Thank you, Melvin. Maria Ignacia. Thank you. Thank you for your comments, and I'd like to thank all those that have joined today and for the valuable comments we have received in this Q&A session. One of the things which has been widely addressed is the complexity of challenges from the point of view of agri-food systems. Very important from the point of view of priority number 4. When we think of the stakeholders of the rural communities, they're also part of these complexity. They're not just social stakeholders, but also productive. They have environmental roles. And as a result of that, we have these tensions as referred to before. Tensions to improve productivity, revenue, technology gaps, to what extent technology can help us in closing these gaps, and to what extent technology can widen these gaps. So from that point of view, from the point of view of priority number 4, we need to address these tensions arising when addressing these multiple challenges and try to improve the consistency between economic, social, productive policies, allowing us to address these challenges from the structural point of view rather than addressing them individually, because we know how challenging that is. It is also important to understand that there are no silver bullets. We have different challenges, different talent, different territories, and governance, therefore, is very important. Having participative or participation processes to empower local communities to account for their challenges, perspectives, and the knowledge they have, the knowledge they can contribute in the design of policies and solutions, which should be taken into consideration for them to be implemented, to make it effective, and to make it last. A colleague referred to the multiple challenges in terms of crisis. We know that we are in a context today where crises are growing, are supplementing, and they amplify. So the work done from FAO to make this development, using these opportunities to improve institutionality, to enhance resilience, so as to allow the responses to crisis are more integrated, and so that they can have installed capacity so as to avoid these crises, and that make it part of institutionality and part of the territorial planning plans. And last but not least, investment, which was also referred to. For FAO, we understand the role of investment as a catalyst for an investment, but we are aware that these should be responsible. FAO has developed a guideline with the OECD to promote responsible behavior through agri-food chains, as was through a multi-stakeholder process used by governments and businesses as a tool to identify and mitigate environmental and social risks. It's always to be always aligned with the SDGs. And once again, something that has been referred to, this year is the year of women farmers. We'll be pushing from our office, not only through regional priority number 4, empowering of women, but across FAO, empowering of rural women is something that will be worked through this, and we're very pleased to receive your contributions to strengthen these areas. So thank you very much. Thank you, Maria Ignacia. And with that, we are closing the block of comments. I will ask Maya in closing, but I will now ask to turn your camera so as to have a picture of this meeting. We'll wait for you to turn your cameras on. Marcela, you let me know if you are ready with your pictures. Pablo is doing that. So Pablo, you let me know. Let me take the opportunity to say that we have had over 187 people joining from YouTube, Twitter, and 80 persons from the scientific and academic joining the Zoom session. So then Maya, so that we can move forward.
Latin America and the Caribbean recorded progress.
Thank you for your comments. Very fruitful. It's always good to hear your comments. Of course, we are organized by topics, but like you said, this has to be a collective approach. If you want to improve public policies, you want to improve the condition of territories and communities. For that, we need collaboration. We need to change the agri-food systems so that they are efficient, resilient, inclusive, and sustainable. I believe this is the biggest and the number one challenge. Each one of us from our own areas, including government, they look at their policies, their interventions, their funding, but they never think of intersectoral integration. And this is a big challenge we face. At FAO, we would like to promote this comprehensive view with a territorial view. Much of what we do is sitting at the territories, inequalities between men and women, between indigenous, Afro-descendant populations. There are inequalities within countries. There are certain areas, territories, regions where this is bigger. And for that, we need to have a comprehensive approach. And that's why this program approach, it's not just interventions. We need this view of better production, better nutrition, better environment, and better life. Many other interventions, many of the projects, or all in everyone, all of them, they work on more than one area to have an impact. And the idea is intervention should not be isolated. We have to work with communities, with local institutions and national institutions. We have to strengthen these capabilities so that capabilities then stay with communities after the project is finalized. And this is the concept of this program approach. Public policies should also look for investments that will reach the territories and will reach the communities and the sectors that need it the most. You talked about, well, you know, FAO, it's an organization of knowledge. It's difficult to have a joint space where we can collect all the evidence. We worked a lot and we have lots of publications of a flagship publications on the different areas in the region, the situation of agriculture around the world. There are multiple publications related to fishery, but forestry. I mean, all these publications show they all have evidence. We are known for producing data together with countries and showing what's the gap, you know, that will prevent us to achieve our goals. In those publications showing countries' policy situations, best practices, and we produce or we publish dialogues among countries, webinars, so that we can show those challenges and address those challenges. Let me refer to this question of how we train the public sector. Besides, Melvin just mentioned, we, as regional FAO, or we have the FAO campus. That's an invitation to all the universities to visit our programs, our online programs and hybrid programs, or training programs. We have nearly 500,000 people enrolled. It's capacitacion.fao.org. We'll have over 100 courses or programs putting together the evidence together with the academia and the scientific sector. This site, you will find information as to how we can now work together. 1/3 of these enrollment comes from public sector. We specifically 16 courses which are directly related to climate change and environment. So invitation is to continue to collaborate and also back to Maria Ignacia, the International Year of female farmers, or women farmers. We also have programs with the academia, and as part of that, the idea is that in our conference, we will have a special section to introduce the launching of the International Year of women farmers. This is to emphasize the importance of farmers and the social role, economic, political role in what we call this agri-food system. All these, I believe, is highly related to the question, the much wider question, how we can improve our policies for them are applicable along with technologies. I believe we're still looking for evidence. And the work with the academia and the scientific sector is fundamental. It's critical in order to move forward and to understand what are the policies that have this joint impact on communities and progress on resilience, decreasing the inequalities, and better incomes for communities. Also, this urban approach is very important. That's why, hand in hand, to address the fact that public and private investments only 0.5% actually go to agricultural and the rural sector, and that's one of the big challenges we have. See, we have to find that we will clearly find where the poverty is concentrated. Once again, thank you for all the contributions. We would like to thank our FAO collaborators, our colleagues involved that organized this session, and many of you will continue preparing at the regional conference in March. Thank you, Maya. Thank you, colleagues. Well, those of FAO colleagues can go back to their jobs. Now, with the other scientific and academic sector, we will continue after lunch. So let's reconvene at 2 p.m. Chilean time. That is an hour and a half. We'll be explaining how we were going to arrange, along with the steering committee, the participation of the academic and scientific sector. What are the participation spaces? And we will be selecting the speakers that will represent this group. So once again, I'd like to thank the colleagues. I'd like to thank everyone in the scientific and academic sector, and we'll see you in 90 minutes. Okay, thank you very much. I will see you soon.
Latin America and the Caribbean recorded progress. Hunger and food insecurity are declining from 33.7% in 2020 to 25.2% in 2024, according to the latest report on food security and nutrition in the world. This is one of the largest reductions worldwide, but challenges remain. Today, 34 million people still suffer from hunger, and healthy diets persist unaffordable for 182 million people. The causes are complex and interconnected. Extreme climate events, economic constraints, global disruptions like the pandemic and the war in Ukraine, and rising food prices. The most vulnerable are hit hardest, and progress toward the Sustainable Development Goals is at risk. That is why we must accelerate action. In March 2026, leaders will gather in Brasilia, Brazil, at the 39th FAO Regional Conference for Latin America and the Caribbean. Heads of state, ministers, parliamentarians, civil society, academia, and the private sector, all united from 33 countries, will address regional priorities and strengthen joint action towards transforming agri-food systems. We need to identify solutions together. FAO stands as a trusted and an impartial partner and continues supporting countries to transform agri-food systems, making them efficient, inclusive, resilient, and sustainable. For a world free of hunger, this is the path forward. A better production, better nutrition, a better environment, and a better life. Latin America and the Caribbean can lead by example, transforming agri-food systems through integrative, innovative, and science-driven responses, and build a region free of poverty, hunger, and inequality. This is our opportunity. This is our time to act.